We're just passing.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I guess my microphone is on. I didn't know. Sorry, I didn't mean to blow your ears out. Thank y'all for being with us here. Merry Christmas to everybody. Thank you for being the stalwart, diehards that are going to stay with us through the bitter end here. Or maybe it's not going to be a bitter end. Maybe it'll be a happy end. We have a kind of a thin committee here. Several of our members have advised us that they won't be able to make it. I don't know that we have any real controversial issues to decide today, but we're going to go ahead and plow on through our agenda. Begin with any opening remarks. Northern, start on your side. Jeff.
The only comment I'll make is our great note taker is not here today, so just please make sure you talk into the mic. She's going to do all the notes for videotape, so just do your best to talk to the mic, please.
Esteemed co-chair.
No. Oh, I thought you said steamed. Not esteemed.
John, do you have anything?
No.
All right, thank you. The minutes that you have, it's been brought to my attention that we have pages 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9, and we're missing the even-numbered pages. So we're going to pass through the minutes unless there's some really pressing desire to approve the odd pages of the minutes. I think we'll pass on that. Next is public comment. It's an opportunity for the public to comment. We'd ask that you limit your remarks to 3 minutes. Please come up here and talk into the microphone and identify yourself, and we'll let you know when you're approaching 3 minutes. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Bill.
My name is Bill McNaught. I am a resident of Kendall County. And my question here is more along the lines of how are we going to get to where we're going? And what I mean by that is this committee responsible to draft the uniform transformation plan that would include both the 2 municipality plans that are submitted to you and their ETJ plans? And will that reconciliation go on here so that you produce a written document which will then be offered as a resolution to both Kendall County, to Fair Oaks, and to the city of Bernie? And it's subject to those 3 entities approving it before it becomes the law. Is that what we're looking at in the future, this process and the responsibilities of the committee?
No, sir.
Okay, well then how will those things be done? I mean, when I read your policy comments, it said, I understood, each municipality is supposed to submit something to the county. And since all of those government entities are represented on this committee, I understood you to say that would all be hashed out here in this committee since all the parties have a table here, a seat at the table. And so if that's true, how will the proposals make it to the 2 municipalities and to Kendall County, if not based on a resolution that's produced out of this committee?
Okay, I'll answer your questions. Was that
Thank
all
you.
of your remarks?
Yes, sir.
The plan is for this committee to develop a report that has 3 components: a long-range plan, projects that are intended to address congestion in the county. That's a short-range plan. Then a long-range plan that will address future congestion. And then the third is a set of policy recommendations that will, actually it's on the front of your agenda. If you look at those 3 things right there, the program recommended policies to guide the planning and design of future transportation land use within Kendall County. Those are the 3 things that our report is to address. And we will prepare that report, and then we will present it to each of the 3 political subdivisions that are sponsoring this effort. And then from that report, each of those 3 political subdivisions will take what part of it that they deem, because we will have done such a thorough consensus building job, and they'll implement whatever part is theirs. So that's the way it's intended to work.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Other comments? Lance Collins?
Lance Kyle, 226 Cascade Caverns Road. That's in the Bernie ETJ. I'll keep this real quick. I don't think this sentiment's been expressed before. Let's face it, roads are a necessary evil. I mean, does anybody really like roads? Txdot, by extension, is also a necessary evil. I'm sorry for anybody that ever worked there or works with that agency. I guess it's not an enviable job being so despised by the public, but there are a lot of blunt instruments over there at that agency. The city of Bernie, almost all of the apartment buildings in Kendall County, probably 80%, correct me if I'm wrong, are in the city. The apartment buildings are in the city limits of Bernie. Almost all the 5 home per acre subdivisions are in the city of Bernie. So before we give the city of Bernie and Txdot more greenfield roads, we got to get their house in order. I love this focus on the intersections. Let's get these intersections fixed before we get into the greenfield roads. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Connell. Anyone else? Ms. Rudd? Rudd? Is it Rudd or Rudd?
Rudd.
Rudd, okay.
You can call me Rudd.
No, I wouldn't do that. That's why I asked.
Thank you. I apologized. I was here just a few minutes late. Very quickly, going forward as we look at future routes, I, first of all, sent an email briefly asking if it's possible to get maps handed to us today. It may have been very late notice, and if that's not possible, that's fine. Sometimes it's hard to see the slides on the screen. The other comment that came to me during the week were not knowing if any of the Txdot environmental impact studies that were previously done will be incorporated into any new projects, any possible greenfield roads, which we hope will be minimized to the greatest extent possible. My concern of this is that, in my opinion, the Txdot environmental impact studies for the Kendall Gateway, which I know is a dirty word, in my opinion, were grossly incomplete, invalid, failed to notify the correct parties who should have had input, and as I had stated in another comment, there were actually environmental surveys in my hand that documented the presence of endangered species on one of these affected stakeholders' property. I believe that had this environmental impact study been properly performed with the boots on the ground, talking to the affected stakeholders as they should have been, and looking carefully at the ground that would have been affected directly, this Kendall Gateway impact study would have nullified the entire project because it's the most inappropriate location for such a freight route. So looking forward, if there are any significant environmental impacts, my sincere hope is that none of their environmental impact study will be accepted for use. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rudd. Yes, sir? Did I see your hand up down there? No? Okay. Anyone else? All right, thank you very much. We'll have another opportunity at the end of the session if you have anything else to add. Last couple of meetings, we've been talking about the 10 worst intersections in Kendall County. The results are in, and our resident mechanical engineer, right, Bob Manning,
Sure.
did that work, so we know it's right, but we're going to let him explain it.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah, a civil engineer couldn't have done this. At Don's urging last time, we were asked to list the top 10 worst intersections in all of our minds, and we had a shopping list from John Kite and then our own imaginations to fill in other possibilities. So we took those results and I compiled them in two ways. One was under the assumption that people just stream of consciousness wrote down intersections that were of concern without any sense of priority, so that they all would have had equal weight. And that's the first one that says standard voting. After talking with Don, he decided, we did both agree, that it would probably be worth going back and presuming that a significant portion of this committee would have rank ordered those in some manner. So we did that by having the top one, the top intersection that each person listed, given 10 points, and the next one 9 down to 1. And that's the second sheet that you've got in your hand, where the numbers get as high as 132 rather than 14. Comparison of the two I found interesting in that there was almost no difference. If we're trying to say what are the top 10 worst intersections in the opinion of this committee, there's not much argument about that. If we're going to talk about which is the number one worst, then yeah, they switch numbers 1 and 2, switch positions. There's nuanced differences, but there was pretty good, just like we were talking about traffic counts a couple of meetings ago. In my mind, what we got was a pretty good sense of the 10 worst intersections in our community that I think should enlighten some of our conversations yet to come. One thing that sticks in my mind is a comment made more than once by John Kite, in that the first roundabout we witnessed being constructed in this community had better work. Carmel, Indiana faced the same challenge 10, 12 years ago. They have 140 of them now, and the first one they built, people argued whether they were safe, whether they were effective, whether they were worth the money, whether they were dangerous, and now they argue about what kind of public art and landscaping needs to go in the middle of them. So we need a good start. We need not only the worst intersection might not be the best candidate, given the light of what he says that it better work. Maybe we need to give a little more cerebral thoughts to what it would be our number one recommendation on what to do at the worst. But there it is, and I asked Northern. She is. It's up here on the screen. I know some of us, and Ben's not here today, really dislike tables and charts, and so they wanted visual information, and that's what you're looking at, where she's overlaid in red and yellow or gold or whatever that color is, the top 10 scoring off these two voting procedures, and you can feast your eyes on basically how little difference there really is and what those differences are.
Just to note, the red is the standard voting, the yellow is the weighted voting,
Okay.
the dots.
Thank you, Bob. My hope is that we would find a way to incorporate this into the report, and that it would feed our decisions about what projects might be recommended with a higher priority than others. But that's just my thoughts at this point. So welcome the committee members to respond to what they see here.
I'll just say I like the weighted version. I thought that was helpful. I was surprised when I saw River Road and Main Street equally rated with River Road and Herf and Esser. And when I saw the weighted voting, it was clear that they weren't. The Herf Esser, Sheep Dip Crossing, if you've been here for a long time, spot really did rank as the number one worst intersection of the town, which fits with the way I think about it. So thanks for doing that. Yeah.
I did notice that what came to mind was the top 5 were predominantly those in the corridor that was initially studied and concerns the city of Bernie had concerns on, and that's coming into town, going through Main Street and headed out. Those are on the top 5. I would also suggest if we do pick 10, because the last number 10 and 11 on each list flip-flopped, I would consider maybe we consider them a tie for 10 and we pick 11. And they're all part of that same system anyway.
I think to add to Bobby's component is, I wonder if really 6 and 9 will change because of what's going on with I-10 and the reconstruction, and maybe you look at 11 and 12 or 12 and 13 just because, I mean, those are washed because of the current condition of construction.
Yeah, that was my thought as well. It might be a year for Txdot to finish, but when they're done, 6 and 9 should be off the list.
And I guess when we're talking about intersections, I mean, the HEB intersection at Bendera and 46, I mean, that traffic gets stacked up because it's a one-lane situation trying to cross 46 there. So it's significantly worse because of construction.
And Jeff, just for the record, the city of Bernie does not maintain the signals at either of these intersections. Is that correct?
Correct.
Are they synchronized? Or I guess they're under construction.
But they're under construction.
Yeah.
They're under construction.
There's quotes around that. Synchronized.
This thing doesn't move, does it?
Yeah, it does.
I was going to comment on, I don't know if y'all can hear me, on whatever you come up with, pick one of the ones you had, Main Street and River Road, or pick up Herf Road and 46. You may pick those as number one, but to do so, you need to pick something. What are you going to do when they're doing it? Because you stopped all traffic. So you need to have a detour route prepared, because one of the things bad about Bernie's system is it was all based around Txdot. Bernie itself never did do a north-south road. The way School Street worked pretty good. Txdot sort of cut it off now. It doesn't work anymore. But we need to, whenever we're looking at these intersections, look at how are you going to have a detour while you're building this? So that's something that needs to be factored into this. And, I made a presentation before on basically a high water route which went north and south, which would be a detour route if you had something like this. But that's something we need to factor into this, is to, okay, when we do this, what are we going to do with traffic? Because like I say, the town was built around the roads that existed with no thought about other roads for circulation in town, mobility within town. So this is something to think about. It's not taken away that these are bad intersections. It's just that if you're ever going to fix them, what are you going to do with the traffic while you're trying to fix them? And this goes whether you're building a roundabout or a lot of this, well, not a whole lot of it, but some of this can be handled with traffic timing, signal timing. Like, going down Bendera, you get to HEB and then you got the signals there at 10. If they're not coordinated, well, you're sitting there waiting at HEB and you're backing up halfway to Main Street. Well, if all that would have been coordinated, it may work a little better. But these are things we need to think about, even though we agree that the worst traffic is at a certain intersection. But how are you going to fix it?
Okay. Any other comments?
My only comment would be that, John, you highlighted sequencing, but also in your presentation that I thought was very effective and would resonate, I think, with the community is the not only alternative routes, but also the purpose of those, because you highlighted in yours the emergency routes that would be necessary for fire, police, emergency medical services, etc. And I don't think anybody would argue with the need for that. You won't get into traffic counts, you won't get into that type of dialogue, but it meets a high priority public need. And so I think that ought to also underscore sequencing and priorities as well as you presented to us. So thank you. I just want to make that comment.
Thank you. Is there a hand up over there a while ago? Okay, well, I think I've got enough information to feed some narrative that goes along with this and the map that Northern put together, and we will consider that further as we move forward.
Don, I do have one comment. When I'm considering the feedback that I had from the city council members when I spoke to them a month or two ago, they really seemed concerned about just us coming to them with this giant plan of a million things to do. I've also just been thinking about, well, anyway, I think it would be very valuable for us to just say, hey, we've identified like these two intersections that floated to the top, and here's some suggestions. But really, I know the city recently just hired Kimberly Horn. Yeah, which gave a presentation just a while back, which I quoted in my article I wrote a while. I mean, they seem to be very on par with the type of thinking that we've been considering in this committee, and I don't know. Maybe we could suggest that people look at real close detail. I mean, I just don't know that we are going to come up with the best exact plan. We're not going to come up with the exact roundabout design or exactly how the traffic will be diverted around, should be diverted around that spot. But I do think getting to this spot where we're at right now and just saying, hey, we've looked at all these intersections and we really need to hone in on these should really be the beginning. And now the question is, how far do we go, and at what point do we just sort of hand this off to the politicians and engineers to figure it out?
Well, I think the politicians and the engineers said, here, y'all give us some feedback. But I think your comments are on track. We're not going to do detailed design, but I think what the elected officials in those three entities are looking for is something other than the prior approach, which was we're going to spend a whole lot of money on one big significant project. And there is either the tacit or explicit statement that it's going to solve the problems. And I think most of us have come to realize it's probably not going to solve all the problems. And so they've said, if we can't get that done, what can we do to improve traffic in our community, because everybody wants traffic improved. And so I think this exercise kind of points us in a direction that says, until we really reestablish our credibility by addressing needs that we can really address, and we do that effectively, then probably we need to rethink the one big project. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what I heard them say, or what I've read between the lines and the music underneath the words, or whatever. But I think this exercise helps us move that direction.
Agreed.
Don, if you don't mind me asking, and wherever it fits into the conversation, because as a committee, we're making recommendations, and these two projects are within the city limits of Bernie. But what is the commitment or buy-in from Txdot, since they own the structures? Where does that fit into the narrative, if you will? Or where do we think it fits into the narrative?
I can give you my answer, which I think it is. Txdot's the one with the money.
Right.
I mean, we've got some money, but you look at it, we're 50,000 people in a county that has some huge transportation needs. And for us to fund fully on our own the transportation that we'd like to have is probably not going to be politically or economically viable for the long term. We've got to find a way to recover and get the sales, the gas, the fuel taxes and the registration fees that we paid into the system that fund transportation back here, applied in a way that's rational and coherent and makes the community feel like there was a thoughtful assessment made of how to do that. And so I think we recognize that we have to look to Txdot to fund a lot of this. And so while we don't want to be overly critical of their prior processes, we want to say, though, we have some things to say about how you want to fix the roads. And these are the things we'd like to say. And if we do that in a respectful way, and in a way that it's not wishful thinking from a technical point of view, it's not detailed technical, but it's, okay, well, these seem to make sense to us. What do y'all think? Then I think we'll get somewhere.
Okay, thank you.
And Gary, I want to remind you that the project that did recently get funded by Txdot was somewhat reprioritized by the willingness of the city and perhaps the county to up the ante on cost sharing. So Don's point about they've got the money, but they also care about communities that are willing to put a little skin in the game. So if our set of recommendations being some coherence around the voice of the people who live here say this is really what we identify as the problem, maybe it helps them focus their own limited resources to get Txdot to fund them and approve them.
I think after the last roundabout, when the commissioner sent the deal in that says back off on the loop on the gateway, that if you look at the last paragraph and what Commissioner's Court sent in, it says Kendall County Commissioner's Court requests the removal of the Texas Department of Transportation proposed routes from public sources to enable the stabilization of the real estate valuation impacts on affected landowners, which is important. But I think after that, if I remember, and we've been looking for a letter that I sort of remember having, Txdot said that they were not going to have any more participation until the community comes to them with an approved alignment. In other words, we're going to have to battle out where we're going with this before they'd get involved again. So I think they're willing to get involved, but we're not going to be able to go to them and say, here's something when there's a huge controversy. They're going to stay out of that. But if we can, through what we're doing right here, come up with some reasonable ideas, requests, things that would work, I think they'd get involved again. Now, the next thing is normally they want 20%. The more you can provide them, the more they will move your project up. I used to do that. Yep. So if there's more monetary help there, they would move you up the bracket on where you get help quicker. So I think what we're doing is what basically they said we needed to do before we ever come back to them. And I think we're doing it right. And again, like I say, the whole town of Bernie's been built around Txdot roads without doing any of their own roads and having the mobility corridors so you can move around without having to go to River Road and Main Street or something like that. There's other ways to get there. And that's what we're trying to come up with right now.
What I heard, something that's resonating with me, I thought I'd mention when Jonah started talking about what the council wanted, is not just a big list that's almost impossible. To me, when employees come to you, or somebody criticizes what you do, that's swoop and poop. They come in and say, we don't want it. Well, give us an idea how. One idea I think that's resonating on the funding issue that we're talking about is there a policy recommendation that we're going to suggest that potentially develops an ad hoc committee that assists with obtaining funding? Because it's strength in numbers. It's getting out there and beating the streets and talking to the right people to say we're going to put in 30% or 40%, and maybe we need to write a policy recommendation that talks about assisting with finding that alternative, finding those funding sources. Possibility. Maybe that's a solution that they want to hear.
That would sure move you up the ladder.
A lot of communities do it. Matter of fact, some MPOs, they score you higher as a group if you put forth more money. So if you hit 50%, you get X amount of points. If you put 30%, you only get so many points. It pushes those projects up, and we need to help them with that possibly.
For example, the MPO project for Cascade Cavern that we were selected, the base match was 20%, and then the city authorized to go up to 30%, and that got us X number of bonus points in the calculations. And on the Hawk Signal, basically the city offered 10% match, and that got us from a 3 years from now project into a this year project by doing that match. So they're past matches that the city participated in.
And if drainage is part of that cost, you could show that as in kind.
Correct.
So if I understand, sorry, I wasn't ignoring you there, Bobby. I was writing down, you're suggesting that we add to our policy recommendations the use of a citizens committee to recommend funding.
Assist with funding alternatives. Once prioritization takes place, potentially an ad hoc committee from this group, or I'd be happy to help develop the wording of such a policy if necessary.
I think you just offered to head up the ad hoc committee.
Maybe, maybe not.
So go ahead and write that up because you're writing your own orders, okay?
Tell Bobby to leave his mouth shut.
Any other comments about this or what we've been talking about? All right, well, very good. We will move on to the next one. Tim Van Wolf had advised us that he was not going to be able to make the meeting today. I don't know if any other folks that were on the committee that were looking at those policy recommendation wording, do y'all have anything or bring anything that we need to discuss?
Tim was the note taker and writer, so I haven't seen him. We talked dark skies. We talked the hill country character. I'm trying to remember some of the other conversations we had, but those were the topics we talked about, and yeah, Tim and Bitsy were the ones writing it all out, so I haven't seen anything.
Okay, well, we will skip over that and we'll move to a few additional projects as time permits. Ms. Hendricks, your magic over there.
She goes off the hook.
I guess you could just walk out of the meeting. What would we do?
Well, unless Northern, you're like right there. It looks like you have a minute to get set up.
Go ahead.
So while we're getting set up, I did hear from Tim that they had some discussions. Maybe Jeff, maybe this was with you about Kimberly Horn and working on a pretty comprehensive model for the city that's likely to be developed in, 9 months or so. But it would be a very high resolution, really comprehensive model of the city that would allow some pretty sophisticated analysis as far as different intersection designs and the impacts throughout the town and stuff. You had some conversations with Tim about that, I believe? Or?
Well, I mentioned it at our last transportation meeting, very high level, giving the notice that we were going to approve Kimberly Horn at the next city council meeting.
Yeah.
So we have now executed that contract. But a portion of that contract would be for them to come in and study 15 intersections. So they would come and do 24-hour counts, to do vehicles, freight, people, and bike scooters that go through that intersection. We would take that turning movements and we'd go make the computer program is called Synchro, but it's a computer program that traffic engineers use, and we'd make a computer model for the entire city using that software program. And then what you can do with that program is you can go make changes to one intersection, and then you can hit run and let it run for a while, and it will one intersection might actually improve the next intersection as traffic goes through. And so it's something that we'll be able to have in our back pocket and look at, hey, if we make improvements, if we add a turn lane, add a left turn, right turn at this intersection, it might also help the next intersection. And that's just a tool that we'll use to help identifying projects.
And the timeline for that was about 9 months? Is what
Yeah, so that we have several tasks that they're going to be working on. They're also going to be looking at evaluating our cross sections. The city has 22 street cross sections right now for how wide a right-of-way, pavement, sidewalk, and everything. So we're going to look at simplifying that and making those a little more. There's some sections that I don't know if have ever been used, and so why do we have those sections? So we're going to look at that. But the contract is 6 to 9 months, but the traffic studies will be kind of more on the front end of that.
That's what I was wondering. So there's a chance they might be available?
We'll probably do the counts mid-January, mid to late January, and then probably setting up the model would be through February and March timeframe.
It was just interesting because it's sort of towards, I don't know exactly when we're hoping to be completely wrapped up, but it's like right when we're kind of aiming roughly at trying to coalesce around a final ending point potentially. Here's going to become this amazing tool that could potentially be of such great value for helping us in our process.
We're going to take credit for getting them to do that, too.
Okay, well then that's my question. So, yeah. It just was, I was just thinking about that as far as the timeline for this group and what our end goal is and even the potential. Now, don't shoot me when I say this, but the potential for the fact is traffic problems are not going to go away when we submit our final report. The idea that I think we as a community have created a model for a useful way to really gather community input into a process that could be repeated or continued in some way periodically is worth thinking about. In fact, I even think that not to add more policy recommendations, but basically a policy recommendation that there be a citizen committee that continues on in some capacity, or maybe it's periodic, maybe it's continual, and then they produce an interim report every year or something as based on what the issues are. So,
Before we get any more policy recommendations, Northern, are you ready to go?
I was just buying her time.
Okay, so let me get that. There we go. Okay, so like I mentioned a few meetings ago, we are out of non-controversial road comments to go through. I have some pedestrian and bike still left. These that I've got here are mainly for I called it the interior of Bernie, kind of like the main parts of Bernie. There's only 34, so we can get through those. Okay, starting off, Graham Street, numerous obstacles in the sidewalk. I'm not really sure if that's anything that we can do, but.
Does anyone know if that's like a temporary, somebody just had set some boxes there, or if it's like a permanent thing?
No, I can almost tell you who wrote that and what those obstacles are. There's a sidewalk that terminates in a drainage structure, and I think there's maybe even a fire plug or something, and it in the end, it's just an irrational. You can't make a sidewalk be there that's the least bit useful. So it's on the face of it, it's absurd. If somebody checked a box, there's a sidewalk that you can't get from School Street to Graham without getting out in the road and walking around it. It's not a gigantic on fire sort of crisis, but it's a very poor design.
And didn't we somewhat come to a decision with a lot of these that we would just pass a lot of these through so that the city had access to them and related to pedestrian, sidewalk, safety sort of issues like that?
Yeah,
I think there's some logical grouping of these sort of relatively minor, isolated locations.
Yeah.
Next, we have on Moss Rose. Sorry, I'm not familiar. It's kind of between 474 and Esser back in the community. It says add sidewalk to the south side of road so it doesn't jump from one side of the road to the other.
I say we pass it through. I think
Yeah, it makes sense I'm not familiar with the location. And again, right now, we're just adding these to the one to pass through.
Yep.
Eliminating the ones that don't make sense.
So this one, it looks like Jeff Carroll, I believe you were the one who told me that there are stripe and rumble strips, or the rumble strips are in place on Rosewood. Improve the crosswalk for safety. Is that already in place there?
There are rumble strips there at this location. There might be other ways we can improve it as well, but there are rumble strips there. Because I think this comment was add rumble strips.
Yeah.
They're there, and most folks observe that intersection.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed. I drive that stretch a lot.
When were they added, Jeff?
They've been there for a while.
Yeah, for a long time.
So they were probably added before this comment came into being.
Yeah, but they might be worn out.
Yeah, they could be. They could be that. Could investigate them further.
What would you think?
It's at
we should do?
Rosewood and Old Number
Carry it
9.
on.
It's the
Yeah.
pedestrian.
Is there a crosswalk sign there? I mean, I would assume so.
It's very well identified.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's a straight line shot. If there's not a line of sight issue coming around a bend or a curve.
Just for deer, not humans. They don't follow the rules, though.
So is this a do not include, since it sounds like it's kind of addressed as best it can be?
We could just move it forward, and it's something that could be a
Okay.
low priority deal that one day we can. I'm sure there's others that are higher priority, but we'll have it on the list to improve.
Is there any intention to add Rosewood to a sidewalk plan, a major sidewalk plan?
It's
So-
on there.
Okay,
So
so that,
we have a sidewalk project, this number 45 right here, it's out to bid right now. We'll be receiving bids in January to do that sidewalk project.
so then that actually would probably solve the vast majority of the other concerns because there's no sidewalk on Rosewood.
Correct. So we're putting sidewalk on the south side of Rosewood.
Well, that would be a big sidewalk project.
Yeah.
Because, like Jeff said, this is looks like most of Rosewood, and create sidewalk and/or bike lane along the length of Rosewood. And you said it's out for,
It's out for bid now. We hope to be under construction by March.
so I'm guessing just pass it through.
I mean, if it's underway, I don't see any reason to clutter our report with it.
Okay. Because some of these, I just called them standalone bike trails because they are paths because they don't really follow a street. This one is a Menger Creek bike trail, perhaps via platting. And you can see the map here.
What does that mean, perhaps via platting?
I guess as development occurs,
That would be my
they
guess.
dedicate the land or the right of way for a sidewalk.
Correct. Through development agreements and/or our parkland dedication ordinances, people can donate the creek. So on anything that has to do with residential, whether it's single family, large acre, single family, small acre, single family, multifamily, if they're doing a development next to the creek, our current code will require them to dedicate a portion of parkland. And so that would get the property to the city, or the city could come back at a later date and make a linear trail at that location.
I mean, if we're not talking about, seizing people's land to build a trail and it's made through some kind of agreement process like that, and that land has not been developed and it might go that direction, I like the idea.
Is there several of these sorts of recommendations for standalone bike trails, and I think it might be a good idea for us to group all of those together and just under the auspices of potential hike and bike trail master plan, consider adding these or something like that, finding a mechanism, policy mechanism that
Some of them are very specific, like this one.
Are those in the back of lots of individual platted lots? I think it looks like.
There's a few like this where it's out in the middle of nowhere. Some of them are very specific. Extend the Greenway here between,
School Street?
yeah, thank you, School Street and Town Square.
We've got a little group that's supposed to be helping mock up a bicycle master plan path network, right? So I think if they were aware of
The
all
Eldridge
these.
Plan.
Huh?
The Eldridge.
Eldridge plan.
The Eldridge plan.
It's gathered its own egg.
But he's not here, let's just assign it to Ben.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to just lump all these and hand them to
Well, I mean, I think
volunteer
that's-
Ben,
I think that's the way to go.
then I'll unplug my computer and hand it back.
Well, what I will suggest is that I think that there might be ones that we, like that first one seemed to potentially have some viability. After hearing about it, I'm like, okay, there's a potential for discussion here. There may be other ones that are just completely don't make sense that we could weed out as a committee if we need to.
Yeah.
Or, that transport, or that bike master plan group could do that themselves as well.
I'd say let them.
Yeah.
This one, I think, I don't know what
Those cooks in
happened.
the kitchen.
I believe the city was trying to get this one.
Yeah, from Adler through private property, through school property, all the way to number 9, the city is working on that right now, but it's going to take some easements that we're working with private landowners to get. So it's in progress, but we'll see about getting the easements.
That would be really cool. I would love it if if it was a walking trail or hiking trail or biking, and it extended from Becker to the east to Plant right there too. Not to rile anybody up, but
Like going back all the way to Plant too.
Yeah.
I think I agree. Because then you would have to go all the way around the school.
yeah.
Is this mostly to serve like children getting to school and kind of facilitate the pedestrian component?
And everything right here is the park.
Park.
Okay.
Park. Skate
So this
park.
is the skate park right here, but everything back here is city parkland.
Future park.
This trail could go up here to their street.
It's really tying
Oh,
the
there's-
park to the old number 9 trail. Gotcha.
Northern, from a policy from a process standpoint, why don't we step through these and we'll make, one decision could be funnel it to the committee, the second decision might be this one stands on its own and we need to kind of advance it forward independently, and the third one would be this doesn't make any sense, don't include it at all. So
Okay.
we'll just walk through these and maybe get some kind of organization to them.
Wow, my computer.
Some of that could go through to Plant. I think it's close.
I tell you what, the last update, my laptop has started just typing things on its own. Okay.
You'd have to time.
The add Greenway style walking path and biking path along the creeks. This is in Champion Heights in the woods of Bernie, between Winding Woods and Bentwood Drive. Is this an HOA or is this a city issue?
The majority of the trail within the woods of Bernie is all within a private HOA property. And then that kind of diagonal northwest corner is across 2 or 3 private landowners.
I mean, I like the idea of connecting Bentwood Drive with the woods of Bernie and from a hiking, walking perspective. I don't know if I would recommend city, I mean, that seems like the city's spending a lot of energy and money to improve a very specific neighborhood location. So I don't know.
I'm not familiar with that area, but, I mean, a lot of those are probably pretty low-volume residential streets. Is there not the possibility of safe pedestrian access within the street right away?
I think the high school is right here.
Yeah, I think the idea behind this is to connect the 185 homes in the woods of Bernie and possibly, the 240 some odd homes in Champion Heights. For those kids that go to Bernie High School, they could walk.
Right. My question is, couldn't you
Could they use the
accomplish the same
streets?
thing by cutting from the end of, what was the name of that street?
Destiny
Drive, rather than build all those hike and bike trails and use the
There's-
existing street
Yeah.
network?
Yeah,
Oh, actually,
you're
there's
right.
already that
You're right.
connector, right?
Yeah.
All they have to do is open the gate.
Okay.
There's right where that little,
Vista Verde.
right there where it goes north to Vista Verde. It's a safety, fire,
It's an emergency crossing.
Isn't that something, Rich, isn't that something y'all talked about in your committee, was connecting those two neighborhoods? With a walking
Not
path?
walking, yeah, but definitely the other one was Champion Heights, getting a walking trail to lead to Herf Elementary.
right.
Yeah. Yep, because quite a few kids walk that way.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Do you know if they can get bikes under where that fire access road is currently?
Correct, yeah, the gate is only across the pavement, there's a gap.
Okay. So kids can bike directly from there to the high school
Yeah.
as it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is not necessarily, this is not
A
needed
lot of it's within
as
that
now.
neighborhood.
It's a gated subdivision, so I think it'd be hard for the
The
Woods of Bernie to
Woods
get
of
to
Bernie is gated, the Champion is not. And that little connector from the end of Destiny, again, it'd be across private property owners that would have to get easement or right of property from.
Yeah, if the, I think that what you just said is really important. If the Woods of Birding is a gated community, then I don't think that it makes sense for us to support big projects inside of a gated community to
Doesn't
help the
support the
residents there.
public.
Yeah, it doesn't support the public, which is.
So this was very specific to the skate
Yeah.
park.
Like it.
Skate park needs a bowl for drop-ins and no longer runs more space. It's a good park, but too cramped. So I'm guessing this one is not within our,
Area of,
right, not within our objectives.
Right.
It's not a transportation issue.
well, it is, it's just very micro.
From one side to the other side of the bowl.
Okay, so the next 5 are connections, standalone connections to the Cibolo Creek Trail. This is considered Greenway along Cibolo Creek. This is from
Oh, wow.
Herf west to the dam.
So most of those parcels along that area go to the center line of the creek. So there'll be 10, 15 plus easements and or right-of-ways that we'd have to acquire.
And you
Could that be something like we were talking about with Menger Creek, though?
Development agreements.
I know, but there's some spots there that aren't developed, right?
There might be a couple that aren't developed or on.
That's all private property you're running through.
We could still ask.
You can ask. Yeah.
Well, is the maintenance along that, I mean, typically it's in a riparian area, is the maintenance a problem for the property owners? They're always having to clean the creek out. I mean, if,
There's a lot of debris and trash that, or even just logs and branches and stuff.
I mean, it might be, in the interest of connectivity, it might be good to approach them and say, if you give us an easement, we would be down there maintaining this, and, the cleaned area provides people that are doing good things rather than doing bad things.
Of course, they could walk along the sidewalk on River Road that's already there.
Yes.
You can, and I've done it, and this is way preferable.
It's scary.
Yeah, you're literally right beside
Yeah.
River Road traffic.
Maybe that's the answer, is a wider sidewalk.
I think if you could find willing landowners, and I don't think that's an easy ask, especially for those two houses on the west end there. They have these beautiful mowed lawns that go right down to the water, I believe. Those two, was one of those like a law office or something? I can't recall.
Real estate.
Real estate.
Ranch sales, yeah.
But I mean, I think we should suggest that we talk.
Send it to the committee.
Yeah.
Of course, that's why those people put up the fences to keep people from doing just what you want to do.
Nobody said this was easy.
Okay, another Cibolo Creek Trail connection, connect Main Street sidewalks to the river trail.
Don't they connect? Right
This is a footpath. There's
Yeah,
no
it's just
official
it's not
trail there.
official.
What is that supposed to do?
This is at Main Street where 46 comes in. The steep hill, as
It's
far as I
just
know,
dirt.
has no
It's just
actual trail. It's just a,
Grill.
That's where like that snow cone place is,
yes,
right?
there's a footpath there, just from people walking it, but no official trail. I mean,
Go to the committee.
Yeah, that's a good one. A little bitty one, good.
Usually when there's a footpath in the dirt that tells you something.
Oh, this is a good spot.
all right, some sort of connection from Bank of America?
Yes, that's
Okay.
another dirt path.
Entrance area down to the river trail, visibly being used already by pedestrians as a means to get to the trail.
Yep. Same thing.
Include it.
Good idea.
There was an architect one time who said, we're not going to design any sidewalks, we're just going to build the campus, and then we're going to come in a year later and build the sidewalks so everybody's walking on it.
Smart move.
Makes sense.
Consider extending Greenway. This is the one from where it ends just below Peggy's on the green to,
School.
thank you, School Street.
You probably have right-of-way issues, but I'd say send it to the committee.
Yeah.
It's-
Same thing we were talking about earlier.
This is add a pedestrian bridge across the dam. The property on the south side of the river is city-owned and can be used and enjoyed by residents if it were more accessible. This would also offer a safe crossing for residents who reside in neighborhoods south of Maine.
Is this
That
a
goes into a gated community though on that side.
is this
The
a
heart of Bernie.
pedestrian or
It's not gated.
vehicle bridge?
Heart of Bernie?
Or it's always open if it is. You can walk right into it.
The open gated community.
Yeah, they want you to think it is.
It does have a gate.
Does it?
Yeah.
I think it was gated and
Just never closed.
Yeah.
I've never seen it closed.
Well, you're talking about a pedestrian bridge or or vehicle
Big
bridge?
pedestrian.
Pedestrian.
I would almost doubt these people over here would be interested
Yeah.
in running a bunch of people through
I
there.
can tell you they won't.
Yeah. Yeah, those are some pretty nice homes over there. That,
So include or do not.
No,
yeah, I would agree. I don't think
No.
makes a lot of sense.
Okay, let's see. We've got two standalone. These are connectivities. These are usually between location. This is just east of Ether, Bentwood Drive and Sharon Drive. And I believe this is the high school just north of it. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Does that follow property boundaries or something? Why is it such a funny shape?
Just to mess with your head.
It does work.
It goes through somebody's house.
I bet it does follow a property
I believe
line.
it's following property lines.
What is to the right side of the screen between those two houses? Is that a existing path or?
That's their driveway.
Looks like
Oh,
they
that's
have,
right. From the Bentwood side, you
There's
see.
one driveway that has a
Gate,
gate
yeah.
on the Bentwood.
Yeah, this is a creek bottom, just,
FEMA, the north-south and northeast angle, that's FEMA floodplain, kind of following that drainage low.
But it's all private property?
It's all private property.
there's not that many houses on Sharon Drive.
It's a real low-density development. I mean, I have long thought that some way for people on Sharon Drive to get through and to get back would make a lot of sense, but I've never been able to think of a way to make it work without just, condemning a large, person's property or something.
So I'm hearing do not include?
I don't know.
Sharon Drive on the city limits.
Okay, add a
small
bike,
portion is-
hike, Greenbelt Trail connecting Bentwood, Champion Heights, Esperanza, and Herf Elementary. I believe this has been discussed before. The subcommittee suggested this. Is that correct?
Well, I think the discussion before was from Bentwood Drive straight across.
Mm. Send it to the Eldridge Committee?
I'd say so.
Does that, doing it that way, does that bridge those two neighborhoods between Vista Verde and what is that below it, Woods?
Champion Heights.
Champion Heights? Instead of moving it up further, you could probably take both neighborhoods
Yeah,
over?
it connects this
Does
neighborhood,
that make
that one
sense?
across.
Well, the Bentwood Drive connection was a road proposal.
Right.
So this is just a hike and bike trail.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say moving forward.
Yeah.
there's a lot of floodplain in there as well.
It's Browns Creek is that parcel, there's a parcel in between Bentwood and Esperanza. There's a rectangular parcel that's 70-80% covered by floodplain. It's been for sale for quite a while.
Be a great city park.
Be a good deal on some floodplain.
Okay, these are all connections. This is extend, and all right, I'm not native Bernie. Is that Curry Creek? Curry Creek, okay. Curry Creek Trail to Esser. This would be between Blanco and South Esser.
So it was before my time at the city, but I've heard many a story of the residents here not wanting to give easements to the city at this location.
Yeah, it's not before my time. I was on the committee when that was done, and you're exactly right.
Is it still the case?
Yes.
Is
They
it?
brought it. They brought it up to me several times.
The
When they
lower-
found out I was on this committee.
Yeah, the lower part of that goes through the city's maintenance yard,
It's this.
and then the part from the maintenance yard up to Rosewood is private property. They could come down the creek and go over to
Oh, it's the
Road.
neighborhood and Village Drive that's opposed to it, not the folks on the east side. I wonder if they would be opposed to it if it went on the east side of the creek. I mean, I think early on there was a lot of doubt about how well what the Greenway would be like, and I think now that people have seen it, people love it, and
Yeah.
there's families walking on it and houses. If you see houses for sale in Bernie and it's on the Greenway, that's like the first thing in the listing. House in Bernie right on the Greenway. I mean,
I would send it to the committee.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to sending
Let
it
them-
through
yeah.
because I think it's a good idea.
It fits in the network of
Thank you.
things, but there would have to be some conditions that go along with it.
Yeah.
Maintenance and policing.
Create connection to Greenway in area with current drainage culvert.
I actually may have proposed this one, but there is a concrete drainage culvert that connects Oak Knoll Circle right there, and kids walk on this little culvert to get to the Greenway. It's a real simple spot, and the homeowner on the north side of the line, I walked by and talked to him, and he said he's tired of mowing the grass right there. He would give that portion or sell that little slice to the city to make into a path. So
I guess, Jenny, when you say culvert, it's a channel, a concrete channel.
Sorry, yeah, it's a concrete channel, not a covered culvert.
Okay, I was like, they're walking in the culvert.
Some guy I talked to.
So I'm hearing yes. This is add an extension to the trail, starting at Adler over to, what's it?
Go through the jail.
Going to a bunch of private property there.
Tour through the jail.
To the chair.
Yeah,
Make sure it's
I
not a
think
tunnel.
that route through the jail property is not a,
But hang on, I would agree with that, but before we,
Relative there.
You get a tunnel, call it.
Well, it might have a lot of usage.
I don't really know what,
yeah, like, it would be an egress, not an access.
Is there a way to go in front of it?
But I can't see that going through all the private properties.
no, yeah, no, I can't see that either.
I don't know that there would be a need for it if Adler gets improved the way the city sounds like they want to improve it.
I would take that out.
Okay.
What that represents to me is that people like the trails and want to see more of them in general.
Recreational.
These are downtown Greenway trails. This is actually just a comment about a park, that this would be a good place for a park, which is not really in our,
Yeah, that's not.
now we have a creek trail from River Road to Tyson Plant intersection.
That's the place where you put a street.
So I'm guessing all this, is
Projects through there, right?
this all private property?
It's all private property. But isn't the city doing the maintenance in that drainage pathway from Plant and Tyson?
Just that parcel that was on the previous slide about City Park, that we do some maintenance there, but the rest of it we do not.
I would add it to the committee's work, and if it fits in with a integrated network, then, maybe it does.
Purely recreational anyway.
Right.
It could be drainage way too.
Well, or both.
It's a huge drainage way.
I mean, this is another Greenway path suggestion from Plant, connecting up to the old number 9, north of 474.
That's just a continuation of what we just saw.
Yes, and this is along No Name Creek. This is not Curry Creek, this is No Name Creek,
Can we open that up again,
which
please?
is, I'm told, is the official name for it.
I think we should submit a policy recommendation to name No Name Creek.
No Name Creek.
The name and No Name Creek.
Name
yeah.
no.
Well, we have K without a name. We're really creative in this county.
So it's, in the FEMA world, it's unnamed tributary number something of Cibolo Creek. I've actually spent a decent amount of time researching this because most everyone calls it No Name Creek. There actually is a placard on the Curry Creek Trail that references this as Currington Creek. But I've never heard anyone else know that, and I've been trying to chase where the placard, the information that came
What's it,
from
what
the
it
placard.
called?
Currington Creek.
Currington Creek.
I've never been able to find anyone that knows that comment and why it's on our plaque on Curry Creek. So just something we're researching, but we, on staff, refer to this as No Name Creek.
Maybe get the Kendall County Historical Society on that.
I think it would be interesting for all these sort of interior Bernie suggestions for hike and bike trails to put them all on one map and see where they were. And I don't think I would want this one in light of all the others out there, but I think the committee ought to take a look at doing that and see what would make sense. So in that respect, I would suggest we move it along.
Okay.
From
Right,
that, from that last slide, half of it's already on city property.
Yeah.
So like Blanco North is all city property, so there is other properties that would be needed.
So as you can see, the connections to the old number 9 and extensions of old number 9 were very popular. So this is, says City of Bernie
Extended
application
up to Adler.
submitted.
And that's on already owned right-of-way, right? That's the,
City owns the right-of-way as property. The
Yeah.
problem is there's a bunch of landowners that use it as their own property.
I would like to see this one go as a standalone project because this is really important
yeah.
to the neighborhood. It's important to more than just the pedestrian mobility. I'd like to see that one bumped up to independent status.
Well, it has a termination rather than just stopping out in the
Right.
middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
There's also a bunch of multifamily sites off of Main that could utilize this as a good point of pedestrian access instead of walking down Main Street, which probably
Yeah.
isn't realistic.
And it's a dirt road right now, and people just walk all up and down that dirt road.
And bums parking.
Yeah. a lot of parking.
Yeah.
There are bums parking around.
Well, sandwich bums.
And so this would actually be the next leg of it. This is old number 9 between Adler, 5 Points, whatever you want to call that
Yeah,
spot.
going right through the EMS building.
Right through the EMS new building. But I'm not sure if there's an easement still there, but that
It
would-
actually turns and goes a little east to the north there,
Right
at
there.
Shooting Club Road.
It seems to me to be something that might fit in with Ben's plan for a bicycle network, hiking bike network all over the place.
And one day Ben is gone, we're talking about it more than we ever have.
Yeah.
He'll show up and he's gonna be like, oh, no.
Bet he won't miss much anymore.
This is pretty much the same area. This is right above, this is the EMS building. There's a large thing.
That's got to be a redundant comment.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they intended to go farther than just that limit.
The new apartments connecting to the main trip.
Retirement apartments.
Yeah, that's it. Live at Burning.
Live at Burning.
Is that even on any property that would be their responsibility or ours?
This is probably in the right of way of Old Shooting Club Road, where that little strip is.
So does this belong in Ben's plan?
Yeah, I mean it's this, I think it's more or less the same comment. Yeah.
So it's a duplicate. then.
Redundant.
Mhm. And this one, I think we just discussed this one. It's not this exact line, correct, Jeff?
Correct.
exactly
Slightly
that.
different.
Is there anything that we should do to make that move forward? Like add it to the recommendations still?
Add it to the recommendations.
Because it's not a completely solid.
Funded.
Correct. We don't have all the right-of-ways, we don't have the funding for it, but it's something the city has been working on.
Extend Greenway. It would be between River Road and the old number 9, just east of Champion, along, I can't tell what creek that is, it's covered up,
Browns.
Browns Creek.
It's all private property owned by the ISD.
Go ahead.
If only we knew somebody from the ISD. who could comment on that. Yeah.
Well, there's a good possibility that land to the right of that red line will be developed by the ISD, so why put a walking path in there when it will probably be built anyway?
I think there are two consider. Obviously, you'd want it for internal mobility or access to the school, but you don't necessarily want to. I don't know how secure your campuses are. Do you prevent pedestrian entry into your campuses for security purposes, or?
there's gates
Yeah.
around it. That particular, to the right of that land, that's really not part of the Champion campus. It's actually closer to the Cibolo Creek campus.
Mhm. I mean, it is a creek, and I don't know, I haven't looked at it close there, but if it's not sort of a like if it's not simple for pedestrians to get from east to west across that creek, then it seems like those are two separate properties, and maybe it would make sense to have a little trail that walks up it there.
Well, and directing them to River Road at that location is probably not a prudent thing to do. There's not a crossing there, is it?
There's sidewalks there.
I mean, you've got, if you want to get to the old number 9, you've got this one.
Yeah.
Where does the old number 9 stop currently?
It goes
Before,
Keeps
which
going.
way, this way?
to the east. It goes way
Southeast.
down all the way to Cibolo Creek almost.
So then they can get down Her French Boulevard as well.
In fact, there's that little trail right there with the little bridge going over Browns Creek there, and I wonder if that could just be extended south and not have it go from there north.
It's mapped as it, all the way to when it turns into Shield.
Sorry, what was that last word?
The Shield Road.
I'm not sure where that
It's
is.
way down south. That's
Way down
Cascade
south.
Caverns Road.
When you look at the map, it just says the old railroad grade.
Well, the railroad used to go right across the river there.
Mhm.
There's an old trestle that's no longer there. I think there's a little piece of it left, but
So this one is a no? Is that what I'm hearing? Or Ben? The Eldridge
I'd say
one?
let's let Ben's group analyze it, unless Rich feels like it's a no.
I don't really see the point. I mean, the southern part of that land is a floodplain, and
That's great for a hiking trail.
That's right.
yeah, okay, whatever. I mean, but you've got most of that, like I said, most of that land to the right of that red line is going to be developed by the district.
So we can recommend to the district to build a path through there?
Yes.
There you go.
Add a walking trail connector to the Greenway. This is at the end of, or almost the end of Her French Boulevard.
Hello, Ben.
Could have been?
It looked like there may have been a little trail there if you reopened that, but.
There's one on, I think, Lasso Falls.
Yeah, right where it says Cold River at the end of that.
Yeah, there's one there.
Yeah.
Browns Creek Bike Trail connecting neighborhoods to schools, old number 9, et cetera. That's a Ben plan, kind of a line. Yes.
The component that's within Esperanza is there already.
How many more you got?
That many.
Okay,
7.
do that.
Old number 9 to Willowbrook, just east of South Plant.
Oh, yeah, that's actually where I get on the Greenway a lot, and it is one of those spots where
I bet they're doing it already.
there is a trail. It's a spot where there's people walking through that all the time. So I would recommend that.
Is it on private property?
I don't think so. The city goes in there and mows it. There's a sort of a big empty spot between two houses, right where the drainage kind
There's a
of
lot of
flows.
drainage that goes through there.
Yeah,
Otherwise, Joan has been trespassing.
I guess so. Yeah. And everyone else.
This says improve connection to Greenway or to the old number 9. This is Autumn Ridge Becker. would this not be covered if the project that the city is trying to get funded?
So that's a crushed granite path right now that has sort of different steps up. You can't ride a bike on it. I believe you pretty much have to get off a bike to get it up there. But there is a path there.
Yes.
Anything? Yes, no?
Sure. I guess it falls within the HOA property. That little strip.
Do we know if the city built that path and maintains it, or if that was the HOA?
HOA.
Which is interesting, and HOA chose to increase rather than reduce access in and out of their neighborhood. And, just in general, I like the whole tone of providing additional access points to Old Number 9. Now that the community's had it for a while, and everybody's starting to understand it's not a threat, it's an amenity, but I think it'll be even more used, the more access points that exist to it. By walking around on it, it just seems like it could benefit from, and the community would too, from a lot more access points.
And the community is Kendall County, and that line went all the way down through Fair Oaks. I mean, it went all the way to Deeds Elkhorn. I mean, is there any problem with supporting, trying to connect?
You're talking about the old railway?
Yeah.
So that, I believe that all that easement was returned back to landowners predominantly, so we don't all have access to it like we once.
My understanding is, once you cross the county line, it's all private landowners, all on the Fair Oak side.
Once you cross the county line?
Yeah.
But even before you get there, I think it's.
But a lot of it is on the property line. And so it's that ridge, that area, whether it was 80 or 100 feet, is sure, it may be private property, but it goes down a property line because they probably gave half to half to one side, half to the other. You can see where it follows it, and there's a property line that follows probably 90% of that, 80% of that old trail, old line.
I don't think, Bobby, there's any trouble with the concept other than it may involve condemnation, and I think to be consistent from the roadway, we're not going to propose lines across private property without consulting the landowner first. We wouldn't want to propose a major excursion across their property with a hike and bike trail without.
Or propose other nodes that connects Fair Oaks systems with Bernie's systems. I'm not.
I mean,
that's another option without
in
having.
general, like really exploring options of utilizing as much of that old railway as possible for trails, I think would be widely supported by a lot of people. But I said exploring, right? Which means talking to landowners and figuring out a lot of those details and whether it's feasible or not.
I mean, tying our trails to Bear County's and San Antonio system. I mean, they have a
intricate network.
Yeah.
I think it's an outstanding vision to connect our trails to Fair Oaks and then think about Fair Oaks to San Antonio. This is aspirationally, I think it's a terrific idea. Now, the practicality of can we get there? I only wish the rails to trails had happened before they returned it to landowners, but it didn't. It's a great idea.
This one connects Herf Ranch to Ranches at Creekside. I believe it was a hike and bike skate trail connecting the two neighborhoods to the old number 9. I don't know private property or HOA there.
So isn't there already a plan to connect those two through that connector further south right there on Herf Ranch Boulevard right there?
Yeah, Herf Ranch, the city's received construction plans to extend that road, Herf Ranch Boulevard, all the way to Copper Creek.
Okay, so not connecting directly to that smaller road, but kind of somehow going around to the main.
Correct, all the way to Copper Creek.
Yeah.
That internal connection, I guess on the north side of 126 is a gated subdivision.
Correct. Yeah, so the portion of that is a private HOA parcel. It's all drainage, but part of it on the Ranches at Creekside side is a private HOA. Herf Ranch side, it might be HOA owned also. I'll have to double check.
I don't think that partition in that.
I tend to agree with that.
We're seeing plans the first time. Start construction.
There is a dirt
Yes.
path.
Yeah,
Dirt path.
They're very formal.
Right next to Pico.
Yep.
Is
Sometimes you're up to
it
your knees.
public property?
No, it's, I think it's private. Those are all great.
All right, so will this one include or do not include?
Include.
Okay. Since there is a footpath.
It is through private property.
So we can't look at it.
Is it private property?
Yeah.
So they've got a footpath through private property?
Yeah, it's a private property.
And it might be on a property line right there, but, I think including this in the recommendation does not mean we're including confiscating property. It means let's explore the possibility of putting a trail there and see what that means.
We're not designing things here or making final determinations on project limits anyway, so.
Right.
Three more. All right. Completing a short section would increase the neighborhood access to Cibolo Creek Trail and downtown. On Tyson,
That was Ben's.
I'm sorry, Northern. Can you,
this is completing a short section, I'm guessing sidewalks.
Sidewalk.
Would
Oh,
increase.
that's the sidewalks,
Yeah.
okay.
Increase the neighborhood access to the Cibolo Creek and downtown. It's on Tyson, West Tyson.
okay.
I mean, it's a good place for a sidewalk, no question about it.
Yeah, when you get the other side of Lot Street, it does exist there for a while, till it, yet again,
There's just a
arbitrarily
gap.
stops. But still, yeah, I see what they're driving at.
Say include it.
Two more. These are both on West San Antonio. Change the design standards for new sidewalks to quit blocking them with mailboxes mounted in the center and turn perpendicular to the walk path.
Can we make that a policy recommendation?
Mailboxes and power
It's
poles.
so obnoxious. I have to agree with that.
I'm pretty sure that's mine. It's, so you're going River Road, and the mailboxes are parallel with the street. You get on the brand-new ones on San Antonio, and you're everyone perpendicular. And you, boy, the difference in ability to negotiate the sidewalk is huge. And I don't think the post office cares.
So you're saying the box itself is turned?
Yeah.
Against the sidewalk?
And
Because
that
they
would,
have a policy.
I know there was I know there was an issue with mailboxes on this stretch of the road with the sidewalk redo, and Jeff knows about that, I'm sure.
but they could have, if you were committed to making the mailboxes parallel with the street, then you can move the post itself closer to the curb, right, instead of having it in the dead center. It is a little bit weird to build sidewalks and then have a million obstacles right in the middle of them.
Yeah, and the box would hold up to a bat a lot better.
From that angle.
Think about,
It's a lot harder.
No mailbox baseball.
I think we're seeing some insight in Bobby's path. Okay, so would this be a suggested to the city as a policy? Okay. Last one. Bike lane connecting Main Street and Old Number 9. Again, this is along, what did I just say? West San Antonio. This is between Main Street, across School Street.
What is
In the woods of Frederick Creek. So this is going towards I-10.
Yeah,
Is this a sidewalk or?
There's already a sidewalk on the north side.
There's sidewalk there, they're asking for a bike lane.
Yeah, bike lane.
Oh. I'd say send that to Ben.
Definitely.
Figure it out.
One last for Ben.
Yeah. It's way less work to show up at committee meetings than it is in this one.
Okay, we're good.
So Northern, we appreciate you going through all of that. So what we are left with now are a list of what I'll call controversial projects or projects we expect to be controversial. Then we have to go back through this other list and decide which of those we want to extract and put into the long range and short range and things like that. Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Commissioner, could I just correct something? It's controversial and Fair Oaks report.
Well, I was getting to that.
Okay.
That-
Two separate things.
To feed that, as you know, we've anticipated the report from Fair Oaks Ranch for some time, and it's not that they're not trying. They have met several times. City Council did meet, and they had some substantive discussions. I think most of you saw the mayor's column in the Hill Country Weekly recently. The mayor himself wants to come present his case, or the Fair Oaks' case, of what they're interested in for as far as transportation is concerned. So I think we will hear from them at the next meeting. I believe that he'll be ready. And then after that, we will undertake the hard stuff, the controversial projects. So is there any other projects I know that have not been identified? If y'all have those, now's the time to get them in. Not today, but soon.
Yeah. My only add-on to Don's remark is just everybody in the audience stay posted about the agenda. We've had a false start already on hearing from Fair Oaks, and we don't want to keep doing that to you, say it's going to happen and then it doesn't. So pay attention to the agendas that get posted.
This is a second opportunity for public comment. Is that Tom Adelson back there?
Thank you, Don. I'll tell Ben that you guys all this took like 5 minutes, and it'll take him 3 hours to get through the list. Jeff, I just had a question. You brought up about the city having the contract and then doing the count starting in January. And I think over the past few meetings, folks had brought up streetlight data that's kind of more high-tech, can tell people where trucks are going, cars are going, so we know more than they made a left or right turn. My question is, will that traffic count use that new fangled stuff, or are we going just counting if they make a left or a right?
So we're looking at using both tools. For the computer model, we need to know actually who's making rights and lefts, but we're using Streetlight and other software for who's going where in town.
Good. And then that software will be able to use roundabouts as well, not just. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Other comments? Lance Cowell, bite number 2.
This will be even shorter. I just want to ask Mike if he could post today's video before the Christmas holiday, or whoever at the city does it. Okay, could they do that before the Christmas holidays? All right, thank you, Mike.
Anybody else? Ms. McCarthy.
I have something I want to share.
Do you want us to?
You can pass them out if you don't. If you want to. If not, you can toss them. You're about to discuss Wanda McCarthy, Ammon Road. You're about to discuss controversial projects, connections to Ammon through Fair Oaks, City of Bernie, Kendall County.
How many sheets are in there?
There's just 2 each. I had them separated too, and there should be 15. Someone has, in the past meetings, has discussed putting a bridge network across some of the ecologically sensitive areas so that a Greenfields Road wouldn't affect the people that own those lands as dramatically, which everybody that owns those lands knows that's not true. But I've used that same idea and proposed a bridge network over land that either the city, the state, or the county already owns, probably 95%. So acquisition of land would be almost nothing. The cost would be no different than crossing green space roads if you were truly going to put a footprint instead of a roadbed. Proposing a large option of a bridge doesn't take away anything that y'all have already done. You're talking about bike trails, hike trails, safety, internal roundabouts, synchronizing lights, all that work that you've done needed to be done anyway and still needs to be done. This makes an option that is separate from the local traffic issue. It's getting people to and from San Antonio or to and from I-10 to 46. I know that in the past when suggestions were made, oh, that can't happen, engineering can't make it work. There was a discussion probably 15 years ago, and I was part of that panel that made a suggestion to correct Blanco Road, Bernie High School, and Esser, and do just what has been done, and I was told that can't happen because Txdot didn't approve it. And yet it could happen. I was told that a nonstop entrance onto I-10 from South Main and extend the access road couldn't happen. There was all these rules. Guess what? Right now it can happen. So looking at this as a big project, saying, oh, it can't happen, we don't have the footprint, whatever. We already own substantially all the land. Esser, the HERF extension was sold to this county and the community as the bypass. Let's take that step further, preserve our rural community, let's preserve our water and the ecologically sensitive land, and give to the community what the community was told they were going to get, a bypass right there, limited amount of space to acquire, limited amount of space to extend, and already onto the I-10 system. If you get onto the access road there, you can go directly onto I-10 going west, or take the turnaround and go east. No problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McCarthy. That was perfectly timed. You're 3 minutes
good.
right now. Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, committee members, we have, this is our last meeting for the year. Our next meeting, our next regularly scheduled meeting will be January the 4th. Is everybody here up for that? The enthusiasm is overwhelming.
I was checking my calendar.
I'm excited about starting a new year.
Yeah.
And then the 18th will be the next one after that.
That's correct.
We know what happens if you don't show up.
Yeah, Ben's an example.
Yeah.
All right, time for closing comments. Gary Louis, you want to start at your end?
I have no comment. Thank you. Everybody have a Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Full comment.
John, do you have anything?
No. To add to Gary's comment, a Happy New Year as well.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you all for being here.
Okay, look at this.